So you've learned about string concatenation, but one of the other things that we're going to learn how to use is called string interpolation. And string interpolation is basically a way where we can create placeholders inside of a string which are replaced with a value of a variable instead of having to do a lot of complicated concatenation that might end up being really difficult to read and be really hard to set up and maintain. So I'm using the previous example that we wrote for concatenation of our console application that takes in a first name, an age, and then concatenates the string response. So what I'm going to do here is actually just comment out this line so that the compiler will ignore it, but we can keep it for kind of our comparison purposes. And I'm going to show you how to write this string using the interpolation instead of concatenation. So with interpolation, we would create our string any way that we wanted using these placeholders. So I'm going to put your name is, and in here I'm going to put that and just put like name, whatever I want to call it. We had a colon. And you are age years old. Now our variable names have to match, so let me check that I've matched my variable names and I've ended my string. And then these strings begin with a $sign. So we would stick that $sign out front to let the compiler know that this is an interpolated string. Now you'll notice the minute I put that $sign in there, these didn't turn red, they're now black. And so that lets you know that you're kind of on the right track here. So this is essentially, and we should see the exact same response as we got from our concatenated string in the previous example, but it doesn't allow us, or it doesn't require us to set up our quote marks and our spacing and our plus marks and everything where we need them. We can just stick those right in there with the curly braces. So if we give this a little test run, we should see, right, what is your first name? And I can use the same data I used last time, which is Karen. And how old are you? Karen is 16. And so your name is Karen and you are 16 years old. So we get the exact same response that we got from having the concatenated string, but this is a much more readable format. So I'm not saying don't ever use the plus operator and concatenate strings together, because sometimes the plus operator, it's easy to use and it makes for intuitive code if it's just a simple statement. This line here, you have no trouble reading it and understanding it. But once it's like really long and it's off the screen and it's word wrapping around in the IDE and you've got parentheses and you're doing conversions for type safety and things in there, it can get really confusing to read, and it just makes for kind of a sloppy looking statement. So kind of lean on your judgment. If you feel like, hey, this is an easy statement and it's intuitive to just concatenate these together, then by all means continue to concatenate. But when you have more complex statements that make more sense to use the interpolation, or if you just think, hey, this looks nice and it's easy and I can remember how to do it, then again, by all means, there's a lot of different ways to accomplish the same thing in programming, and you're going to learn many different ways, even just to join two strings together. So it's not one of those things where there's maybe a right way and a wrong way. It's just what's appropriate for the situation and what are you comfortable with and what makes sense. And so I hope you just kind of use both so that you get familiar with them and you learn how to build more complex strings with these different methods.